Good day. How long are we going to continue not going by the laws of God? How long are we going to continue by doctrines that man has created, that the enemy has given us? And I'm talking about the first covenant that God gave man, the first covenant that God instituted, and that's the covenant of marriage. And yet we do not go by what is clear in the Bible. It is clear in the scripture. A man is not bound to one woman. And this name, polygamy, is a negative name that that the enemy has made such a negative impression of that name that once you talk about this, everybody's like, oh, polygamy, polygamy. God never gave a number for how many wives a man can have. God never gave that. Look, in Exodus 22:16 and 17, he says, and if a man, now, if a man, he didn't say if a single man, he didn't say if a married man, he said if a man. So, as long as you're a man, whether you are single or married, doesn't matter, entice a maid. Now, for the maid, there's a description of the maid, no description for the man. Entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her. He shall surely endow her to be his wife. If you sleep with a woman, you marry her. That is not betrothed, that is not married. Okay? It says marry her. If her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. If the father refused, you still pay the bride price. You still pay because you have slept with her. So you take a woman, you marry her. That's what God said. God didn't say if you're married or if you're not married. It doesn't matter. Any man that takes an unmarried woman, you marry her. Again in Deuteronomy 22, verse 28, it says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found. Now you are found sleeping with a woman that is not married. He said, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel father, that is, you pay a bride price, 50 shekels of silver, that represents the bride price to the father. And she shall be his wife, because he had humbled her, and he may not put her away for all his days. It doesn't say if you're single or married. It just says any man. Any man. Okay? In this same chapter, Deuteronomy 22, if you go up in verse 22, it says, if a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shall thou put away evil from Israel. So you see what he's saying here. If the woman is married, it is wrong. But if the woman is not married, you marry her. Never gave a number. God did not give a number. And for you to understand this, in Deuteronomy 21, the chapter before, verse 15, it says, if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, he didn't say it is wrong. It gave in this from 15 to 17, talks about sharing your inheritance not to be favorable to one or the other. You find that in scripture, it specifically speaks on the woman is bound to the husband while she's married. It doesn't specifically say that about the man. So how is it that something that we don't find anywhere in scripture, we are still going by this idea that a man is bound to one woman? This is not of God. This is of the enemy. And I'm talking about in 1 Corinthians, I think 1 Corinthians 7, 10 to 11. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband. But if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. You see, even Paul is saying this. In Romans um, in Romans 7, verse 2 to 3, it says, "For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loose from the law of her husband." Specific about the woman, not about the man. You're not going to find this specific thing on the man. Now, everyone keeps going to where Jesus points, where Jesus was talking about, like in Matthew 19 and in Mark 10, where Jesus was talking, but Jesus was asked a specific question about what? Jesus was asked specifically about divorce. Jesus was talking on divorce, was not talking about the number of wives a man can have. And he's talking about the people of Israel, the people that have this law. So the people of Israel already, the people already understand that a man is not bound to one woman. So you can see that is not what he's talking about, because if it was what he's talking about, then the people would have reacted to it. But that was not what he was talking about. And for us to understand this is this: marriage was created by God to is like the relationship God has with us, with those that are with us when we worship Him. Those that are faithful to Him, it's like we are married to Him. The idea of being married to God, this didn't come about with Jesus. This started all the way from God, because if you go to what is it? If you go to, is it Ezekiel? Yes, Ezekiel. No, yeah, Ezekiel. Wait, let's see. Isaiah, sorry. Isaiah 5. Isaiah 54. Sorry, Isaiah 54. In Isaiah 54, it says, "For thy," Isaiah 54, verse 5, "For thy maker is thine husband. Thy maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. The God of the whole earth shall he be called." Thy maker is thy husband. God is our husband. That is why you see the language that God uses when the people of Israel stray from him. He said that you've committed, like in Jeremiah 5. He said, "How shall I pardon thee for this? Thou children have forsaken me and sworn by them that are no gods, when I have fed them to the full. They then committed adultery and assembled themselves by troops in the harlot's house." So God calls it adultery when we go against him. And God says he's a jealous God. Remember? He says he's a jealous God. You know there is a law about jealousy for the man? For you? Law about jealousy for the man. In Numbers 5:29. This is the law of jealousies, when a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband and is defiled. So there's a law of jealousy for the man, because God is a jealous God. And the man represents God in the marriage relationship, and the woman represents the people. And there is no God is not a God of one person. God is God of everybody. God is a God of everybody. And furthermore, you find the parable that Jesus gave, the parable of the 10 virgins, Matthew 25. "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom." 10 women marrying one man. This law of one man, a man is bound to one woman, is not of God. This is of the enemy. This is a law of man. It's not the law of God. How long? How long are we going to continue going by something that is not of God? How long? Let us come back to God's law and respect it, because this law has brought about so much. This is the law that brings about all the divorce. Why there is so much divorce is because of this one man, one woman. Divorce, yes. That is why. Let us come back to God. Let us come back to the covenant that God actually instituted. Okay. Have a good day.